Look, a roller dyno, we've got strapping technique, we've got the sidewall height and compound, we've got the overall wheel size, and then three things can add up to, like I said, a 50 horsepower, a 200 horsepower, and hundreds at 800 horsepower, for example. So the hub dyno completely eliminates them variables, whatever, so there's no fixed number you're ever going to be able to apply from it. And for a comparable point of view on a roller dyno, all the user has to do is try and make sure the car is as the same as it was when tested last time. Now, use the same, as long as they strap it down the same ramp rates used, the same wheels and tyres, it's a completely repeatable product, and it's a tuning tool in that regards, whatever. But the hub dyno eliminates three huge variables that you don't have to worry about anymore. My observation is that something that's almost spoken about daily on internet like Facebook and that sort of stuff. There's obviously lots of experts out there who have an opinion on it because they've tested their car and done it back, that's the number they come up with, whatever, which doesn't mean that transfers to every conceivable car. So I have lots of data because we approximately test 2 hub dynos per week at our factory, which we sell. So our test car from a roller dyno, it's just a VE Commodore Ute, it picks up between 30 to 40 horsepower from just basically pulling the wheels and tyres off and putting it on a hub dyno. It goes from 360 to about 400 horsepower on a hub dyno. So some of that is the simple inertial change where the average wheel and tyre consumes 15 to 20 horsepower depending on the ramp rate that you're actually accelerating at. So that's where people who know when they go from a 17 to a 20-inch wheel, the car feels slower on the road because the bigger wheels are absorbing the power. It's not getting to the road. Well, the same thing happens on a roller dyno. The same thing happens on a hub dyno. You're removing that variable. But so mathematically, look, there's 30-ish horsepower per set of wheels and tyres, and then the extra power you're picking up is the tyre loss you're now eliminating. So the less power you got, the less tyre loss you've got from a slip on the tyre, and as you start making more and more power, it just grows exponentially the power loss, because obviously you're getting to the point where people can't hold it on a roller dyno. So I've had customers who've done straight back-to-backs where they've gone from, on his roller dyno, the best he got in two-wheel drive on an R35 to like 880 horsepower or something, put his hub dyno at 1100 straight away. That's because, but then you can start tuning with it, and then by the end of the day he was at 1800 horsepower, because then he had no limitation anymore. So, but it's and like I said, the number I said before, I've had plenty of guys with XR6 stuff pick up 100 kilowatts just taking the wheels, and that's just tyre loss, whatever. So people don't realise that while they may think that a roller and a rubber tyre work perfectly, they don't. There's slip there all the time, no matter how hard you pull down, because as you pull down the tyre on the dyno, you're compressing the tyre, so the rolling radius is changing. So when the tyres are just normal height, you've just changed the rolling radius of the tyre by an inch, for example. So 6,000 RPM in top gear is not the same road speed you'd get on the road. You just reduce what it gets to. So the way a dyno works, it's roller RPM and roller torque gives the roller power. So if you pull the roller speed back, then that's one of the factors which affects the power reading as well. So that's why also that variable is taken out of the equation as well on a hub dyno. Well, the thing is, with the way a wheel and tyre works, the reason why you see the difference is a thing called inertia, which is rotational mass of a round object. So if you have a 17-inch wheel versus a 20-inch wheel, there's more mass towards the outside, so that has more inertial loss. Once again, there's no exact number for it. Typically what you see, you have to say an average number will be 15 horsepower per wheel. If you had a car that had big 20s on it, then you're probably going to immediately see a bigger change. But then that number goes up with power increases. is on a roller dyno, the software's always assuming you're turning the 4 rollers. So if you come off the roller and you're not spinning the rear roller dyno, you might get 20 or 30 horsepower for free, because depending on the ramp rate, that's assumed. So that's why, look, roller dynos get bagged for that particular thing, but that's what happens in the real world. So that's another variable taken out. So that's why some people say, I've done a back-to-back test, I saw this, I only saw 10 horsepower difference, you know, so you can't hold a 1,000 horsepower car on a roller dyno touching 4 rollers. You have to let it climb. So that's why, but that's why some people get confused about the differences between a hub and a roller. There's other factors which can come into play on a roller dyno, why you get a higher than normal reading. Well, it sort of all boils down to the strength of the sidewall and the height of the sidewall. Like you see it, you go, the guys who know what they're doing at the Summernats, when we used to have roller dynos there, they'd have a 20-inch reel with a little 35 ratio tyre on it, nice and hard, and that's a nice hard, so you're getting closer to a solid compound, which then can transfer that. When you pull down, you can transfer that to the roller. If you've got a big balloon sidewall like a drag radial, it's soft, so no matter how far you pull down on the car, the sidewall is going to absorb some of that power. And what you see from a testing perspective is, you put a street car on it, you do a dyno run, you'll go to 200 kilometres per hour. You put the drag radial on it, and then you go to 160 kilometres per hour. And the power difference is in that same percentage, whatever. Because if you lose road speed, then you lose. It's torque and speed equal power. So if one of the speeds down, then so's the power number's going to be down as well. Look, I can only go from back-to-back tests where we've had, you know, a car that made 700 horsepower. We tested once upon a time, and I'd gone back to the customer's premises a year later to take his dyno and his car to a dyno comp, and in that period of time he's changed his wheels and tyres, and his 640 horsepower it made, whatever. And all he's done is went from for example, he had actually like a cheap Chinese tyre on, and he put a Pirelli tyre on. I don't know what compound it was, but he lost 60 horsepower out of 700 just changing the wheels and tyres, you know. So the compound certainly affects the number you get on a roller dyno. The ramp rate is just purely there to, on a roller dyno, it's basically the higher horsepower you make, the faster ramp rates are used to minimise the tyre loss. So you can double the ramp rate and make similar power, because what we don't account for in our software is the inertia of the wheel and tyre. We account for all the rotational rollers and retarder in the dyno, but we don't account for the rotational mass of the wheel and tyre. So when you accelerate something faster, there's more inertial losses. So theoretically, when you go to a faster ramp rate, you should have a lower number. But when you go to a faster ramp rate, you might minimise your tyre losses. If you ramp a car which got lots of power slowly, there's more tyre losses, because the dyno says you're only accelerating this fast, but the car's trying to accelerate faster, so there's more losses there on the roller. And the fast ramp rate typically just can make a turbo car a bit more laggy in that regards, whatever. But other than that, look, people get the strapping technique. If new dyno owners can be a little bit overzealous, thinking they have to strap cars down, it's not so much they're just using the straps wrong. They pull the car down and pull it sort of off the front roller. So they see video where a guy in America straps the car down with straps at 4 corners so the car can't move, and that's for that style of dyno, where we have what's called a cradle dyno, where the wheels are sitting in 4 rollers, and that dyno, the way you'd strap a car on that is completely different to another style of. So the way that works, if you stop the car from being able to move forward onto the front roller, then you induce wheel spin. So the trick there is sure, we can have straps under the car pulling down as hard as you want, but you don't have what's called your restraint straps stopping the car from moving. And with strapping the high horsepower cars, you've got way more to gain by pulling down tight than not pulling down tight. But if you go stupid on a 200 horsepower car, you could pull 50 horsepower out if you wanted to, whatever. It's like when we first built the 2 roller dynos we took to the Summernats, where we had like a big air ram set up on the back of it. I took our test car, and look, it would normally make 360 to 370 horsepower. Now I maxed out the pull down system on that, and I got it down to 310 horsepower, because it was just, the tyre was just so hard pulled into the tyre, And then if I took that system completely off and took all the straps off and put my chocks 4 inches in front of it, I got close to 390, 400 horsepower, you know, so that difference, whatever, you know, so that's the sort of range you can make from one stupid extreme to another extreme. At the end of the day, there's no factor you can ever apply to it. If a guy wants to go out and put his car in a roller dyno, a hub dyno, if that different works for his car, once again, as long as he never changes the wheels and tyres on his car, then it works for him. But you can't use a number someone finds on one dyno and apply it to another car. It cannot be done.